manifestation is about creation. It's not just about bringing things forward and having things just appear in front of you. It's about creating, becoming the master creator, and that master creator state needs to be created from the void, not from the ego mind.
What Brian Cox, the famous physicist, said, that if you change one atom or one molecule here, every atom in the whole universe has to shift to fit that atom.
Welcome to Galactic Guidance, the show that channels the wisdom of beings from higher realms. Join us as we tap into the cosmic consciousness and receive messages of clear guidance to help us navigate our spiritual evolution on planet Earth. So sit back, relax, and let's connect into the higher frequency. Hello everybody, this is Eleni and Marcus, and super excited for today's episode because Ameed, who Marcus is channeling, last week left us hanging.
Yeah, what did she leave us hanging about? I can't even remember.
Well, we were doing part 1 of manifesting, and Ameed said, there's more to tell you, there's more to tell you, there's a part 2 to this.
That's right,
and so I am waiting for part 2 of this quantum manifesting formula that Ameed's going to bring through today. So it's going to be all
formula.
about
How
that.
Exciting.
Yeah, so excited. So
yeah, let's play with that and see what happens.
Okay, so if anyone has just popped into this episode and hasn't seen any other ones, what Marcus is doing now is he's just getting into the zone of taking himself into this state where he's able to channel a higher dimensional being called Ameed. And yeah, so when he's ready, Ameed's going to come through and say hello.
Much of the welcomeness here in this moment for this dimensional interconnection, interaction, that we are here to share with you the influences of the manifestation process, like we were speaking of in the last conversation that we had. There's much more for you to understand in this construct of becoming much of the master creator space, much of the master creator being that you are intrinsically are. This whole aspect of who you are. There is much of what you are here to do, to learn this process of master creator, which much have we spoken of in the past.
Well, welcome, Ameed. It's always an honor and a pleasure to have this conversation with you. And I'm really excited about what you're going to be bringing forward today about basically next level manifesting. And I'll leave it to you to start any which way that you deem appropriate in terms of what do we need to know.
There's much that we wish to share with you about this creation process, and much of what you talk about is in the manifestation of reality that you exist in. And many of you are requesting that you manifest various aspects of your existence, very many things. Many talk about the money manifestation, or the happiness manifestation, or the love manifestation, wanting for much of the partnership to be manifest and materialized in front of you. We are here to let you understand that the manifestation process is more of a creation process, a co-creative process with the universal aspect of who you are. This is a much of a creative space, not so much of the manifestation space. The creation space or the manifestation is a byproduct of this concept of the creation space. You are always in the creation space. We wish for you to step into and become the master creators that you intrinsically are. At a soul level, you are master creators. We and all of the beings, the conscious beings in the universe, are the master creators of this universe. We are collectively creating everything that is materialized and manifested into existence in this universe. And we are doing this in a much of the collaborative, co-creative space, even though you might not understand that we are doing this as a togetherness exercise. This is on a much grander scale than you can of the imagine in this time frame. But we wish to invite you into this co-creative space with the depth of who you are, but also with the collective consciousness of the universal space. So in an individual example, in an individual space, the co-creativeness manifests forward into objects of the desiredness. Many of the manifestation conversations are of the desire nature, of the dream nature. We wish to take this into a little bit of the depthness, into the deepness of the experience. And there are many aspects you need to understand about this intrinsic nature of who you are. For much of this much of the creation aspect is embedded not just in the mindscape, not just in the imagination, but also in the DNA aspect of who you are. There is an inbuilt codic that is embedded into your DNA construct that assists in the manifestation, or what you call the manifestation process. We are much like to refer to this as the creation process, that nothing just manifests. It is all part of a creation process, and making sure that you get and understand the aspects of this is much of the importantness. Manifestation seems much like the magicness, and that things just appear into your space. And at a physical or three-dimensional level, this is how this might appear to materialize in front of you. But in actuality, it is a creative process, and it much starts at a very deep of the energetic level, this creative process. And so once it gets to the mindscape, the process is already a beginning of the unfolding. So it is important that you tap into the deeper part of your universal experience. Tap into the Dantian space where the inspiration is of the spark from. We have talked about the creative cycle in the past, that in the void space of the creative cycle, there is the spark that appears, and this spark comes from the Dantian space. If you spend of the moments in the void and you wait until there is the directive comes from the deeper aspect of who you are, not just the mindscape of thoughts, not just the egoscape of wants and desires, but actuality and from the universal scape of what must be in the manifestation, must be in the creativeness of you. You have come to this theme park to be a master creator of the construct, the collective existence, the collective experience. When you spend time in the void space, you are able to tap into, connect into a bigger universal construct through the aspect of the DNA, that you get the spark of the inspiration to bring forth, to create the things that you have been decided to create in this of the theme park. Once you have tapped into this aspect, you can then access the fire element. This fire element gives the desire, the inspiration, the muchness of the passion. This is where the mindscape can come in to assist in the process. And from the fire element, you move in to the air element. The air element allows things to come together, to begin to collect in and around the space. So when you get into the air element, you call forth all of the particles, all of the aspects that need to come into the togetherness to begin to coalesce, connect in, to be of the creation of the aspect you wish to bring into this of the reality. Once this has happened, you can then move into the ether space. The ether space is very much the alchemical process of taking the wave function and the particle function and bringing them together so that they can start to form this creation that you are wishing to have of the sharing in this reality. Then you move into the water element, and this is much of the importance we wish to spend some time talking about. The water aspect is much of the importance. The water aspect is the medium to which the creation process can fully begin to accelerate, can begin into the creation, ready for the earth element, which is the final part of this creation cycle that we have been of the gifting to you. And therefore, the water element starts to bring all of the construct together. It mixes much of the chemicals together to then have the construct fully appear into the reality space that you wish it to have the appearance in. Here in the earth space, it will be of the groundingness. It will begin to materialize in front of you. It will begin of the happening. It will begin of the full awakening and awareness of the object or the thing that you're wishing to have in the materialization. What you need to start to imagine is this is a creation process, not just a manifestation process. This is a creation process where all of the energetic and physical chemicals come together to have the creation materialize in the front of you. So you must follow this process. The first, much of the importance of the process is the void element, that you are ignited from the universal connection space, not just from the ego space, not just from the head thoughtness space, the mindscape space, but much from the universal space, which is much more connected into the soul aspect of who you are. This is what the inspiration needs to be called in from. Then allow the fire element to bring in much of the passion and excitement and burn away any of the fear or the hesitation that you may have had in the havingness of, and allow everything to then be in the beginning. In your current construct, you are trying muchness to bring in the creation or the materialization, as you call it, in the fire of the element. This is only one of the aspects that is in the needing us to be in the process of. For you, we would request that you spend more time in the water element. This is often where you get the misalignment. The water element is much of a medium from which you can fully bring forth, fully materialize, manifest, as you call it, into the reality space. This is why you are made up of much of the waterness. This is why your planet has much of the waterness around it. Because the water is very of the importance to have this appear and make in the manifestation. Therefore, the meditation, the ritual in the water is much of the helpfulness in this creation of the process. We also wish you to connect into the DNA aspect of who you are. There is a very much a important process in this creation cycle. For if you think about this as a circle, and in the middle is where all of the materialization begins to happen. What you will find in the middle of this aspect is both of the DNA construct and also much of the sacred geometry construct. In fact, that the DNA and sacred geometry are very much of the connectedness together. One cannot work without the other. This is then creating the frequency and vibration of the aspect of the thing that you wish to have in the materialization. So in this aspect, you want much of the thinkingness of the six aspects around the center aspect of this creation cycle process. You can then bring in the geometry, the frequency, the vibration of this aspect of what you wish to have of the happening. First of all, sit in the nothingness. This is the void of reality. Sit in the nothingness and allow the spark to appear. When this appears, you can then move through the elements. As you move through the elements, you wish to then create the geometries that are going to assist in the process of the formation of the thing that you wish to have the materialization of. Everything must have the geometries come together for these aspects to be of the materialization. Know that these have a frequency and a vibration, and so you must be in the connection of both the elemental aspect of it and the frequency aspect of what it is you're wishing to have in the creation process. This then aligns with the DNA aspect of who you are. And these aspects together then help in the creation process and the materialization of the wishings that you have to anchor themselves in the three-dimensional earth plane of existence. This is the aspects that have not been of the taughtness. These are the aspects that have not been fully integrated into the human creation process. This is a gift we wish to have you embrace. This is a gift we wish to give you. So follow the elemental structure as you be in the creation process. Bring forth the geometric aspect of the creation, activating the frequencies, the vibrations, and the energy of that thing that you wish to have in the physical reality. And then in that process, you will be activating the DNA aspect, activating the codes to allow these things to have in the materialization, to be here in the reality of existence. Anything is much of the possibleness. You can be in the master creator space and therefore materialize anything that you wish to have materialized, anything that your deeper soul aspect would much like to have happen. This is why some things are in the materialization and some things are not. If there's not the alignment with the soul aspect of who you are, the deeper DNA geometric aspect of who you are, then the object cannot be in the materialization, cannot be in the creation. You must be in the alignment of these three concepts, the elemental concept, the geometry concept, the DNA concept. When these are all in the alignment space, when these are all in the stable space, then the materialization is much of the master creation process. It is just part of the process. This is happening in the automated space. This is happening when, even if you're not in the thinking of this, this is a process that is unfolding. This is a quantum chemical process or alchemical process that is of the happening, whether you are in the consciousness of this happening or in the not. If you can bring the focus and the consciousness to this process, then you do step into the master creator space, which is what we wish for you to have in the happening. We wish you to once again become part of the family of light and the master creators of the universal aspect of the existence.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was epic. Just one tiny little question, and then Marcus and I will break all that down in a minute. But you said that I need to particularly be in the water space. And do you actually mean like in physical water? So, like showers and baths and so on?
This is much of your construct, even within the physical form. Much of you is in the water aspect. This is not by of the chanceness. This is by of the designness. What is much of an important aspect at this dimensional level. Once you go from the carbon being to the silicon being, then the water aspect is not as much of the importance. Right now, in the carbon aspect of who you are is very much of the solidness. Therefore, the creation process, which is much more of a fluid nature of reality, is blocked and is interfered with in a carbon structure. When you become a silicon being, like we have become, then the manifestation process is not a process, it's just part of who you are. In the meantime, you are able to use the water aspect to facilitate this process. Being around in the water, being actually in the water aspect as you are playing in this creation process is much of the helpfulness. Water is a very important aspect of who you are. Even at a cellular level, very much of the importance. At a DNA level, very much of the importance. Even at a chemical level, when you are mixing chemicals, even when you are doing the simplest things like baking of the cakeness, it is important to have the fluid to mix up all of the ingredients. All of these ingredients then help you to create the cake. Without the mixingness of it, this was not of the possibleness. Even in the cleaning of the aspects of making of the cakeness, it is not possible to do the cleaning without the water aspect. This water aspect helps to facilitate the transition from one nature to another nature, from the sticky cake substance to disappearing into the sink substance. These water is much of the importance. You must very much of the drinking of the water when you are doing the manifestation, materialization aspect. When you are consciously creating, we request that you drink more of the water. When you are consciously creating, it would be of the helpfulness to be in the water space. This is why for you, Mrs. of the Eleni, the water next to your property, where you are living and existing in, is very much of the importance. This will allow you to have much more of the master creator access by being next to or near or in the water aspect. This is very much of the importance. This is why many of you are drawn into the water, whether this is the ocean of the water or the river of the water or the lake of the water. Many of you are drawn into the water. This is one of the aspects why, not just because the water is the prettiness, not just because the water makes you feel in the goodness, but it is part, muchness of this creation cycle process. This is one of the reasons you are here in this theme park, to be of the remembering, to be of the mastering of the creation process. Then once you are in that space, you can once again be welcomed back into the family of light, back into the master creators of the universe, which is what this family of light we talk about is of such. This is what we wish for you. This is part of your training here in this theme park, in this boot camp of existence, of reality, to remember this aspect, to reconnect with this aspect, and to once again understand the fluid nature and the ease at which this can be a making of the realness. Water is a very much important aspect of this, maybe in the missing link of this creation process.
Mm. Wow. Oh, thank you so much, Ameed. That was absolutely epic. There's a lot of material in there that you spoke of, or a lot of material that we need to process. So we thank you so much for all your support, assistance, and guidance.
March is the joy of this occasion. This is much of the sacredness, being in this process together. There is much of the sacredness. And this is one aspect we must be of the remembering, is the sacredness of this process. The creation process is a sacred journey. This is not just a flippant, eager journey as we have spoken of. This is much of the sacredness of the universal construct. And we request that the much more of the sacredness is allowed to have the unfoldingness, not just the you would call it the flippantness of this. This is a much of the sacred process. If you give conscious awareness to this sacredness, if you honor this process, then you are much in the master creator state, much helpfulness in having this become the reality.
Thank you.
Ah, Hey there.
That was so much information. Oh
Really?
my God. How are you feeling? Are you feeling tired?
No, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty
Feeling
good.
good?
Yeah, there's a
Wow.
lot happening at the moment in the background. So, lots happening in the background. So, but this is good. This is good. She often talks a
Wow.
lot about creation and this
Yeah.
concept of
The-
manifestation and, you know,
yeah, because when we finished it last time, she was like, there's way more to tell you.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
really, really
yeah,
important. I've got to tell you. And then, so she started with really manifestation is about creation. It's not just about bringing
yeah.
things forward and having things just appear in front of you. It's about creating, becoming the master creator, and that master creator state needs to be created from the void, not from the ego mind.
Mm,
and and then it's going through the various elements of fire, air,
yeah,
water, earth, and then
yeah, yeah.
tying that all together. And it's interesting, I drew two cards yesterday
Oh, yeah.
from Archangel Metatron about what I need to know, and I drew the
Okay.
water card twice
Wow.
because I
No
drew it once
way.
and I didn't like it. so,
I love doing
so
that.
I
Yeah, I
was
don't
like,
want that
what?
card. That's a silly
Water,
card. And then it
it's
comes again.
boring.
Yeah,
Water is
boring.
boring. And then I reshuffled, recut
Wow.
the deck, and guess
Yeah.
what card came up
Water.
again?
Water.
Water. It's like, okay, so now read it. What am I needing? And then this is what Ameed said today. For you specifically, for me specifically, it's water.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's interesting because I've got the ocean right outside my door, and I've been going
You
for
do.
walks, and in my head has been going through the thought of just put your feet in the water, even though it's cold.
Yeah.
Do your walk through the water. Do your walk
Yeah.
through the water. And it's like I've been resisting because it's really cold.
Wow.
And so now I'm thinking I've got to go through the
You
water.
got to
I've got
do
to
that.
walk in the water,
Yeah.
right?
Even though it's cold, for sure. For sure. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff around the water. Lots of interesting stuff. And I think the other thing we have to remember in the creation process is that nothing's created in isolation.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So you say, I want to manifest, right, or create more money or clients or something, right? Nothing gets created in isolation. So as you create a new client, a whole lot of stuff needs to shift and change to get that to happen. And it comes along
Mm.
the lines of what Brian Cox, the famous physicist, said, that if you change one atom or one molecule here, every atom in the whole universe has to shift to fit that atom, right?
Yeah.
So I think the other part of creation, and she sort of just mentioned it before to me, around knowing also that when you create one thing, you're actually shifting a whole lot of things. And I think the creation cycle and the honoring and the sacredness of that allows then everything else to shift and move to fit that. Because I think
Yeah.
when we're doing it from the ego or those sort of aspects, then we're trying to create, it's almost like I'm trying to create something and I don't give a damn about anybody else, sort of thing. You know,
Mm.
like I don't care what happens. I just
It's
want
for the
this
self.
thing, the self, right? I just want that. But knowing that anything you create is not in isolation, which means it affects everybody else. Um, and so maybe the sacredness, because I did hear that bit at the end, the sacredness thing is the sacredness is honoring the everything else. You know, I honor the
Mm.
universe moving to fit this. You know, I want a new client. Well, I honor the universe moving it, shifting itself to fit that new client or to fit that money or whatever it is, the new house or the partner or the whatever it is. The whole universe starts to shift to fit in with yeah, whatever you're calling
Yeah.
forth.
It has to shift for the highest, but it has to be for the highest good of all
Correct.
because that's how we're
That's the
creating. It's
sacredness
not,
of it. That's right.
yeah.
That's the sacredness of it. And that's why we have to honor that sacredness. And it's one
Hmm.
thing that was taken away from us, I think, is sacredness. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though
Yeah.
the religious construct has had its bad press, right? We know it. it still had a ritual sacredness to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's been taken away from us, and that we don't, I don't know, we just don't sort of have that as much as we used to. I mean, you and I sort of do, and people, do you know what I mean? People that are of that consciousness. But if you look at the general population, the sacredness is now turned into things like, well, I get up and I put a suit and tie on and I go to work. You know, that's a ritual. It's not sacred. Well, it's
Hmm.
sort of sacred, right? Because everything is, but it's not consciously sacred. Like, I don't put my tie on and go, right, I'm going to fit in with this beautiful ritual of wearing a suit and tie, and I'm going to get on the train and I'm going to go into the office, and you know that, yeah, we don't honor it like we used to. We don't, yeah, we don't sacred it
Yeah.
like we used to. That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that just reminds me of, like as an example, anything that's culturally significant, like a
yeah,
Cypriot wedding. There's a ritual, it's a real ritual of letting
yes,
go of,
great,
and there's a lot of singing that we do of the
right,
parents, like
yeah, yeah,
letting go of their child and
yeah,
sending them off with love and prayers and a lot of rituals. And
yeah,
and now
yeah,
what do is they go into a hotel and have some champagne before they hit, the ceremony kind of thing,
yeah.
you
And
know.
very Australian Western type weddings, or Australian, they don't have any sacredness. There's a
Mm.
ritual, right, where there's maybe a priest or maybe not a priest, right? A celibate, maybe. A celebrant, not a celibate. What am I saying? Celebrant. Oh, God.
Celibate
That
before the
happens.
wedding.
Thank you. That happens before the wedding. Uh,
Sure
but,
it does.
and there is some sacredness to it, but not the full, like, like you're saying, the Cypriots did, and a lot of those other more, I don't know, is it ancient cultures or cultures with a very steep tradition, like the Greeks and a lot of these older traditions still have a lot of sacredness to it.
Yeah,
Um, and I think we need to rekindle that, you know? And it's not about not moving forward and keeping all the old ways, because that's often the battle in our modern Western society. It's like, oh, well, they're just, those silly old things we used to do. We need to become modern now. And it's like, well, yes and no, because sacredness doesn't have to be antiquated old. It's not about being old. Sacredness can happen here. And yeah, it's just the consciousness and honoring the process that's the key. That's
yeah,
sacredness, I think, anyway. I don't know. What do you
yeah,
think about sacredness? What does that mean to you?
yeah. I think everything that you said, Marcus, it's about being present to whatever's happening in that moment. If
Yeah,
if it is, how can we honor the moment? It might just be, it doesn't
yeah,
have to be
yeah,
getting married. It can be looking at
yeah,
the sunset and being
totally.
really present. Like it never ceases to amaze me. I live right on the beach and I walk past people that are at a restaurant that's looking onto the ocean and a sunset is happening, but they're looking down at their phone. The sunset is in front of them, coming, like in front of them. And
This
it's
is where
like,
we're losing it. This is where we're losing that
yeah,
sacredness. And it's so important. And you don't have to do it 24/7, but I think we do have to honor it more. And I think what happens when we relearn how to do this, then we honor the sacredness in everyone. Then it's very hard to do harm, because even if someone's aggressive or someone's not treating you nicely, there's still a sacredness to them. There's still a sacredness of the relationship. There's still a sacredness of soul and spirit and heart, and I think, yeah. And I think that's originally what the church was sort of all about, right? Was looking after each other. The communities were beautiful in church, and I'm sure they still are in some aspects, but they don't have the call they used to have, certainly for younger people, right? Because they
yeah,
lost it or whatever. But you don't have to go to church, by the way. I'm not I'm not advocating everyone now go to church. I'm just suggesting the sacredness of that process. And people have abused that. We know people have abused that sacredness too, right? It was probably another reason why a lot of people ran away from it, because it wasn't honored. So that's the key with sacredness. The sacredness has to be honored. When you dishonor sacredness, which some religions do, and let's not go into it, then it breaks down. The sacredness disappears. There is no sacredness then, because you've
mm,
now squashed it. You've now removed the sacredness, because sacredness isn't just ritual and process. Sacredness is a whole embodied consciousness.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
can keep the construct of the church and the ritual, but if you break the sacredness because someone doesn't honor, you get what I'm saying, then the whole construct is is now null and void. Now it's just a
Mm.
building. Now it's just some funny ritual that you do, right? But it's not sacred any longer because it's been broken.
Yeah.
And that's an
Yeah.
issue because it's energetic. Sacredness is energetic. It's not the building, and it's not the wedding, as you said, and it's not the ceremony. It's not the priest. It's not the anything. It's the energetics of everything you do, right? So, like you said, you can go down to the beach and watch the sun and have that as a sacred moment. You didn't need to have a church there. You didn't need to be having a wedding, right?
Yeah.
That
Everything
and
you
that's
do,
important.
eating, like, you
Totally,
know, the whole being grateful before we eat,
totally.
showing gratitude for everything that we do and how we experience life. And then we're in that space, and then we are able to then move forward in terms of bringing forward the things
Yeah,
that we do desire in life.
yeah,
But like Ameed said, it's not just about bringing it to us, it's about creating it
yeah,
and being in the
yeah.
space to create it,
Yes,
and moving through the different elements. And it's and then once we ascend, and it's automatic. Everything
totally,
we desire is
totally, totally. It is automatic. And so, yeah. So this is a much bigger conversation, isn't it? I mean, like there's a lot to this that I think we
there's a
keep
lot to
missing
this.
or we've missed. And yeah. And so I think it's a great conversation.
There's a lot to this, but if we just go back to some basics before we end it,
Totally. Totally.
which is like, whatever it is that you desire, it's time to know that it has to be for the greater good of all. We are moving
Yeah.
away from everything being about us and the self, and it only has to serve us. We're moving away
Yeah.
from that. We need to
Yeah.
move towards, well, what is it that you desire? And is it for everybody's good that you desire this? Because
Yeah.
that's how it's going to come into fruition. Then sit with yourself in the void, wherever that
That's it.
void space is.
Yes. That's a key. And allow it to appear, whatever it is, And so you can go into that void going, but I need money to survive. And it's like, okay, just let the money thing go and just feel into what needs to come forth, right? Then step
Yeah.
into the fire element and
The
bring
fire, which is
passion and
getting excited
inspiration. That's right.
about
It's
having it,
exactly.
the
Yes.
excitement,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
it's the
Air
air,
element. Yep. To
which
call
is
in the aspects, right? So all the
mhm,
elemental aspects of it, to call that in.
and
And then we pop
then
into
it's the
ether.
water.
No, it's
Oh,
ether, and
ether.
then it's water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ether is the midpoint between the wave and the particle from a quantum physics point of view. And the wave is often seen as the thought process and the feelings and those inner things. And then obviously the particles are the, chemical reactions, the alchemical stuff. So ether is a very alchemical place where it's really starting to come together. Then it's water, right? Mixing all the ingredients together, so to speak. And then it's earth where it then gets anchored into the ground and appears.
Yeah, yeah. And so when we say earth, is that where we need to ground ourselves in
Yeah,
nature?
we need to ground ourselves. We need to take action. We need to do things that are going to assist in the process of it materializing. And it's also through that process, and especially in the earth, it's also about being open to it appearing in whatever way it appears in. Because
Mm,
again, we often get caught in like boxing things, that something has to appear in a very certain way, right? Like the money thing's a classic because often we have in our head, for me to make $1, I've got to do 1 hour of work or whatever, right? X amount of dollars, X amount of hours of work. That doesn't allow for it to come from anywhere. Like who knows
mhm.
where it could come from? So we have to always stay
Yeah,
open to, allowing it just to appear
yeah,
from wherever it could appear from.
exactly. And then Ahmed said, then we talk about sacred geometry and so on, but that's a whole
Yeah.
nother conversation.
I think maybe we'll ask her about that next week. Let's keep going on this sort of series almost of creation, because the sacred geometry is a really important aspect of this that we're not taught, we're not really told a lot about. But without geometry, nothing forms in physical reality. And it's
Yeah,
almost like the geometry is like a blueprint that wraps around the thing that allows it to then manifest,
yeah.
materialize. Anyway, We can do that
Awesome.
next time.
What an
Yay!
awesome conversation.
It's super
So
cool.
thank you,
Yeah,
Marcus. That
thank
was
you.
there was a
Thanks,
lot
Eleni.
there, a lot to
It
break
was.
down in that particular course. So
Yeah, yeah, it
and
was.
if it is overwhelming, just start at the start, which
Mm,
is set the intention and is that intention for the greatest good of all, and then
yep,
just sit in the void. Just start at the
just
beginning.
that's it. Just start at the beginning, let it unfold. It's a natural state. You don't have to learn this, it's already embedded within us. It's a natural state.
It's
If
in
you
our
follow the
DNA.
flow, it's in our DNA. Just follow the flow of it and it'll guide you. So, Eleni, as
Perfect.
always, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening
Thank
and
you.
watching. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Bye.
See you soon. Ciao.
Thank you for tuning in to Galactic Guidance. We hope that the messages that you receive from the higher realms have brought you clarity, insight, and comfort. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Remember to stay connected to your own inner guidance and trust the journey ahead.